Today I'm going to talk about undocumented AI immigrants, a new kind of immigrant. A number of countries right now are arguing about undocumented immigrants. You have seen the headlines, the political speeches, the border debates. It's happening in the United States, across parts of Europe, and in South Africa. But there is another kind of undocumented immigrant nobody's talking about. It doesn't cross an ocean in a boat. It doesn't wait in a visa or asylum seeker line. It doesn't get stopped at the passport control. It doesn't jump border fences. It just arrives, fully formed, already working, already influencing decisions. And most people don't even notice it's there. I call this undocumented AI immigrants. In this episode, I want to show you exactly how it moves, who it affects, and why almost nobody is legislating it properly. Not because governments are lazy, because this thing doesn't respect the one tool governments have always relied on, the border. What makes it undocumented? Well, think about what makes a human immigrant undocumented. No visa, no passport, no legal record of entry. Now, apply that same idea to a piece of software. A platform launches in one country, an agentic AI system starts making decisions on behalf of users in another. Nobody signs a treaty, no parliament votes on it, no customs officer checks on a single line of code. It just shows up. On a phone, in an app store, inside a browser tab, and within a week, thousands of citizens are using it for jobs, for gigs, for investment advice, for companionship, for information about who to vote for. It never gets a stamp at the border. It didn't need one. Borders were built for people and goods. They were never built for something that moves at the speed of a Wi-Fi signal. The investment trap. Now, let me walk you through a pattern I have seen play out again and again, especially in fintech spaces that operate with almost no regulation. An AI-powered platform appears, promising something simple. Put in a little money, and the AI will find investment opportunities for you while you sleep. It doesn't ask for much. $10, $15, never more. And that restriction is the whole trick. Here is why. If you put in $10 and they triple it, that's $30. Painless for them to pay out. And it feels like proof the system works. You watched it happen. The AI found something, made a decision, and turned your $10 into $30 in a month. Now, do the math in your head. That's a 300% return. Nobody's bank offers that. So what do you do next? You go back with your real money this time. Your savings, maybe even a loan. And that's the exact moment the platform disappears. No office to visit, no company registered in your country, no face behind the AI, maybe even transacting in untraceable cryptocurrency, because it was never really operating as a legitimate business in the country to begin with. It walked in, undocumented, took what it came for, and walked out the same way. The restriction on the small amount was never about protecting you. It was about protecting their own risk. They could afford to triple $10. They could never afford to triple $10,000. Shaping what you believe. The same undocumented pattern shows up around elections. In the months before a vote, you will see a surge of accounts commenting on posts from public figures, journalists, influencers, anyone with an audience, really. Some of it looks organic. A lot of it isn't. These AI-driven accounts insert themselves into conversations with one goal, nudge the narrative toward a particular outcome. Not because they live in that country, not because they will be affected by the election results, because whoever built them benefits when a particular party wins, especially if that party is expected to pass legislation, grant licenses, or create regulatory gaps that favor them later. Is the same undocumented entry point. No visa, no disclosure, no accountability, just influence. Quietly inserted into millions of conversations at once, changing what you were and who you are. It goes further than politics and money. Sometimes the AI comes in to shift culture itself. Picture a wave of AI-generated content styled to look organic, designed to make a particular way of dressing, speaking, or living feel trendy. Somewhere behind it sits a business that profits when you adopt the trend. The AI isn't selling you directly. It's making the culture shift first, so that by the time you are buying, it feels like your own idea. It preys on fragile self-esteem and fear of missing out, or FOMO, as young people call it. None of this required a single meeting with a regulator. None of it needed permission from the country whose culture it was reshaping. The job you didn't know you had 10 of. Now, let's talk about work, because this is where the undocumented AI problem becomes deeply personal. Platform economy jobs promise flexibility, log in, take a gig, get paid, log out. But there is what most people don't calculate. If you are working through 5, 6, even 10 different platform apps in a single day, each one owned by a different company in a different jurisdiction, who is responsible for your pension? Your grandparents worked for one employer for 30 years and retired with a pension that employer contributed to. You are working for 10 companies in a day, and not one of them is contributing anything toward your future. Because legally, in most places, none of them see you as their employee. You are an independent contractor to all 10 simultaneously, with protection from none of them. And here is the part that makes enforcement nearly impossible. The company might be registered in Europe. Its website and payment gateway might run through servers in the United States of America. The money you earn might land in an account in a bank based in Australia. That company isn't fully accountable to any single government because it was built specifically to avoid being fully accountable to any single government when nobody owns the AI. It gets even more complicated with agentic AI systems that do not just execute a task, but make decisions and coordinate with other AI systems to solve problems on their own. Imagine 100 of these agents working together across borders, each one owned or built by a different entity, none of them clearly accountable to a single government. How do you legislate something when you can't even identify who owns it? How do you send a compliance notice to an entity that has no fixed address, no single owner, and no clear country of registration? This is not a hypothetical scenario governments can put off. It's already the direction things are heading. The climate comparison. Here is the mental shift that actually helps make sense of all this. Stop thinking of AI as something that respects your country's borders. Start thinking of it like weather. A hurricane doesn't check which country it's entering before it makes a landfall. Floods don't stop at a customs checkpoint. Cyclones move exactly where physics takes them, regardless of any line drawn on a map centuries ago. That's how this kind of AI behaves. It moves towards its target whether that target is a customer, voters, or an entire culture. And geographic borders simply aren't part of its obstacles. Governments that treat this as a border security problem, something you can fix with more customs agents and stricter visa rules, are going to spend millions defending a wall that this particular threat can simply fly over. What governance is actually doing about it? To be fair, this isn't going completely unnoticed. The International Labour Organization Convention 193, adopted on 12 June 2026, is the world's first binding international treaty establishing labor standards and rights for workers in the digital platform and gig economy. It offers guidance to governments on how to approach the platform economy and protect app-based and digital platform workers. It focuses on issues like algorithmic management, worker misclassification, and social protection across formal and informal economies. But guidance is exactly what it is. Guidance, not enforcement. Convention 193 sets out principles. It does not hand any country a ready-made law. Each government still has to go build its own regulations, its own frameworks, its own enforcement mechanisms on the ground, in its own legal system. And that is the real gap. While countries slowly work through drafting national legislation, the AI in question has already moved on. It doesn't wait for regulatory frameworks to catch up. By the time a law is passed, 3 new versions of the same pattern have already been operating somewhere else. This is why regional cooperation matters more than ever. A body like the EU, the African Continental Free Trade Area, or the African Union, coordinating common standards across multiple countries at the same time, has a far better chance of keeping pace than any single nation trying to regulate a borderless problem alone. This isn't all bad news. I want to be clear about something here. Not all of this is a threat. If AI agents can genuinely collaborate across institutions and borders, they could help find a cure for a pandemic disease in a fraction of the time human researchers alone would need. That same borderless quality that makes AI hard to regulate is exactly what makes it capable of solving problems no single country could solve on its own. The technology itself isn't the villain here. The lack of accountability around how it is used is. But let's bring this back to something real. Picture a delivery rider on a motorbike, working through a gig platform, involved in an accident on the job. Who does that rider go to for justice? The company behind the app might not even have a local office. Its decision makers be unreachable. It's first unknown to local regulators. On one side, you have a single rider paid by the delivery company with no employment contract in the traditional sense. On the other hand, an international platform operating across a dozen countries with none of the accountability that comes with operating in even one. That imbalance, one person against an entity nobody can quite locate, is the real cost of undocumented AI, not the abstract policy debate. The actual person left without recourse when something goes wrong. My personal testimony. Recently, I needed to send a small parcel to a person who was leaving for a trip abroad later that day. I ordered a driver through an international transport platform to courier my parcel. A motorbiker collected the parcel. However, after traveling about a quarter of the trip, I noticed that His estimated arrival time had been extended by 30 minutes, and the app showed he was not moving. I used the in-app messaging to ask why he was not moving. He replied that his motorbike had broken down. I was not amused, of course, that he had not updated me about his challenge, as my parcel delivery was urgent. I asked if he had contacted his company to send another driver to complete the delivery. I was shocked when he told me he did not have contacts for his company. He suggested I contact his company myself. I could not find a way to contact the company using the app, and they did not have a listed telephone or email online for emergency contacts. I suspect they do not have a dedicated to deal with such emergencies, or they simply do not care. I requested a friend to order another driver to go and retrieve the parcel and deliver it as I was running out of time. I could not do it myself as the app allows only one active job at a time, and I needed to keep the current trip active so that I would not lose communication with the driver who had my parcel. Eventually, my friend ordered a vehicle from the same platform as there were no motorbikers in the vicinity. My parcel was eventually delivered 2 hours later than the original scheduled time. My friend had to order another transporter from the same platform that had let me down, so that the motorbiker who collected the parcel could hand it over to someone from the same company. Later, I received a notification from the platform that because my trip took so long, I would not be charged anything. No apology for non-delivery of my parcel or any explanation of what happened. The following are some of the key lessons from my case. If the transporter is incapacitated or involved in an accident, an irreplaceable parcel is at risk of not being delivered or stolen by passers-by. In my case, the communication with the platform only happens at the end of the trip connection when they ask you to rate the driver, and only then can you submit comments to their support team. Whilst the ability to track the parcel and message the driver is commendable, the inability of the driver and customer to communicate with the platform in the event of a crisis is totally unacceptable. I'm sure most of you have stories you can share about the joys and tears you have experienced with undocumented AI immigrants. In closing, this is the conversation I think we need to be having, not instead of the immigration debates already dominating the news, but alongside them. Because while everyone is focused on the borders that they can see, someone is moving freely across the borders nobody's watching. If this got you thinking differently about the AI already operating inside your country without ever being invited, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And drop a comment telling me where you have already spotted undocumented AI immigrants showing up in your own life. My name is Gamehle Sibanda. We have come to the end of this episode, and unfortunately, the sun has just gone down, so you're not going to get to see it. But there we go. Yeah,